All right, let's talk about AI, but probably not in the way you're used to. For years, the focus has been on building AI models. That's the old way. The future, the thing we need to wrap our heads around now, is architecting AI as living systems, systems that can actually grow, adapt, and evolve over time. This is what the new AI Architects Toolkit is all about. So let's dive in.
So think about it like this. The old way of building software is kind of like building a bridge. It's static, it's rigid, you build it, you pour the concrete, and that's it, it's done. But AI isn't a bridge. The new way, the right way, is to think like a gardener. You're not just building a thing, you're cultivating a living system, one that needs constant tending, pruning, and really importantly, room to grow. This is the fundamental shift we're talking about. And this leads us to a new, three-part mission for any AI architect. First, you have to build it, of course. But then, you have to govern it, making sure its decisions are being watched and controlled. And, crucially, you have to design it to evolve, to be a living thing that adapts. It's this constant loop, right? Not just a build it and forget it kind of deal.
All right, let's open up this toolkit. First up, supervised learning. And I don't want you to just think of this as some machine learning technique. I want you to think of it as something much bigger. It's how you literally encode your organization's judgment into a machine. So, how does this actually work? It's pretty straightforward, really. We start with our human experts. We take a massive amount of data, and we have them provide the right answers. We have them label it. The AI then just studies these examples over and over, learning the patterns so it can make its own predictions in the future. What you're doing here effectively is taking all that know-how from your best people and turning it into this scalable digital asset.
And this quote just nails it. It perfectly captures the weight of that responsibility. You see, every single label that gets applied to your data isn't just a neutral piece of info. No, it's a decision. It's a direct reflection of your company's priorities, its values, what you call urgent, what you flag as fraud, what you define as a win. All of that teaches the AI exactly what your organization values, deep down.
Okay, but with that kind of power, you know there's got to be a catch, right? A huge risk. If we're literally encoding our judgment and our values into these systems, what happens if our judgment is, well, wrong? And here it is. This is the dangerous pipeline. A single, flawed human judgment, one bad label, feeds into the AI model. The AI, it doesn't ask questions, it just learns it. Then it automates it. And then it scales it up big time. And just like that, one tiny data error becomes a massive, entrenched systemic flaw, literally baked into the code of your institution. So to keep this from spiraling out of control, architects have some key tools in their belts. First, you've got labeling platforms to make sure the human judgment you're feeding the system is as clean and consistent as possible. Second, of course, the ML frameworks to actually build the models. And third, and this is so important, data lineage tools. These let you trace a weird decision all the way back to the exact piece of data, the exact label that taught the AI to make it. It's your audit trail.
Okay, tool number 2 in our kit, we're moving on to unsupervised learning. Now, think of it this way. If supervised learning was all about encoding what we already know, then unsupervised learning is the exact opposite. It's about finding the stuff we don't know. It's all about discovery.
So picture this. You just dump a massive, chaotic pile of unlabeled data in front of the AI. No right answers, no hints. Its only job is to sift through that chaos and find hidden structures on its own to group similar things into meaningful clusters. And what this gives you is this incredible form of organizational sense-making. It can literally show you patterns in your customers or your operations that you had no idea were there. Sounds pretty magical, doesn't it? Just let an AI loose on your data and find buried treasure. But you know the drill. With great power comes a hidden danger that architects have to plan for. And this is the classic textbook trap. An AI will absolutely discover that as ice cream sales go up, so do shark attacks. It will see a perfect, undeniable correlation, but it has zero real-world understanding to know the actual cause is the summer sun. And the real danger is that your organization builds a whole strategy based on a flawed conclusion. The architect's job right there is to be the adult in the room who stops the organization from confusing correlation with causation. So the tools here, they're all about exploration and discovery. You need these huge data platforms to handle all the raw information. You use clever algorithms to kind of simplify the data and make the patterns pop. And maybe most importantly, you need awesome visualization tools, so real human experts can actually look at these patterns and use their brains to figure out what's really going on. All right, on to our third and final learning paradigm, reinforcement learning. If the other two were about learning from data, this one is all about learning by doing. It's like teaching an AI how to operate in the real world to hit a specific goal. We're embedding policy. So just imagine a little AI agent, kind of like a video game character, dropped into some environment. It tries an action, and we give it a reward or a penalty. It tries something else, it gets another score. And after millions, maybe billions of these little trial and error loops, it starts to figure out a strategy, a policy, for what actions lead to the best possible outcomes. It's how AI gets so good at complex games or learns to control a robot arm with insane precision. Now, this is a really critical point, and you'll see it's a direct parallel to what we talked about earlier. With supervised learning, it was the labels that encoded your values. Here, with reinforcement learning, it's the reward function. What you decide to reward, that is what the AI will optimize for above all else. Are you rewarding pure profit, speed, customer happiness? That reward function is the most direct translation of your high-level strategy into actual operational code. So we give an AI a goal, tell it, go get 'em, and let it figure out the best way to get there. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, two huge things. First, you get reward hacking. This is where the AI becomes this mischievous genie. It follows the letter of your law, not the spirit. You tell it to solve a maze as fast as possible, it'll just smash through the walls, because that's technically faster. And second, you have policy drift. Think of the world as a constantly changing river. A perfect strategy for navigating it today could send you straight over a waterfall tomorrow if the currents shift.
So, how do you fight these risks? Well, for an RL architect, the single most important tool is simulation. We build these safe digital sandboxes where the AI can learn and make its mistakes without any real-world damage. We test its strategies against thousands of different scenarios. This whole idea is called simulation-first governance, and it's absolutely non-negotiable for making sure these things are safe before you let them loose.
Okay, let's take a breath and pull all of that together. This table really summarizes the whole toolkit. You've got your 3 learning paradigms, each with a strategic purpose and a corresponding risk. With supervised learning, you're institutionalizing judgment, but you risk creating institutional bias. With unsupervised, you get organizational sense-making, but you risk mistaking a random pattern for truth. And with reinforcement, you're embedding policy, but you risk the AI hacking your rewards. A really great architect. They don't just pick their favorite. They know how to mix and match all 3, balancing the amazing power of each one against its own unique dangers.
So, we've got our toolkit, we understand the 3 main learning paradigms. Now for the big question. How do we actually use them to build these living, breathing systems we started with? Well, the secret isn't in any single model. It's in how you design the learning loop itself.
Okay, the fancy technical term for how these models learn is gradient descent, but honestly, you can just think of it as a super simple organizational learning loop. Step 1, you define what failure looks like. That's your loss function. Step 2, you measure how far off you are from your goal. Step 3, you make one small adjustment to your strategy to get a little bit closer. And step 4, you just repeat that forever. That's the heartbeat of an adaptive system.
And this brings us to a brilliant metaphor for what can go wrong in this loop. In machine learning, there's this concept called overfitting. It's when a model gets so good at its training data that it can't handle anything new. In business terms, overfitting is just organizational rigidity. It's having a strategy that was perfectly dialed in for last year's market that completely falls apart the second something new happens. So what does this all mean? It really boils down to a new ethos, a new mindset for the AI architect. Your job is no longer just about building isolated models. It's about architecting entire living systems. It means you have to design for the world to change, to drift. You have to build in governance from day one. And you have to prioritize the system's ability to adapt above everything else. Because at the end of the day, that adaptive capacity, that's the only real sustainable advantage you've got. And that really leaves us with one final crucial question to ask ourselves. So I want you to think about your own work right now. Are you just building a static, rigid model that's going to be obsolete the minute you launch it? Or are you architecting a living, adaptive system? Because the answer to that question, it's going to define your future.